Hello and welcome to another edition of HughesRound. It is the 15th of December 2020, only 16 days to go, and then this horrible, horrible year will be consigned to the scrap heap of history. A bit like the United Kingdom very, very soon. All too soon. Okay, so I've got my messages up. Chris Kopak says hello. Ford is waving. Hello. Alex Morgan says good morning. Good morning. I can't read, can I? Good afternoon, everyone. And Paul Mason saying g'day. G'day, Paul. So today we are still in negotiation Brexit hell. Good news from the States. The Electoral College actually there's 538 electors in America who get to choose the next president based on how their state voted, who got over 50% of the vote in their respective state. And yeah, they all voted the way they were supposed to. So would you know it? Joe Biden won the presidential election with 308 votes, which was predicted about a month ago, more than a month ago, by every single news network in America and around the world when they said, yeah, these states voted for him and they're going to give their electoral votes to him. So Joe Biden's going to win this with Kamala Harris. Yeah. Obviously, Trump took unction at this notion that he might lose the election fairly and squarely, and has been ridiculously flailing around, going, oh, lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. He's been tweeting, he's been playing golf, he's been doing some more tweeting. He's had Giuliani hospitalized with sweat and hair dye poisoning, and yeah, he's had about 50 cases. And this is the best thing, right? So I think I put this on Twitter, and no one's questioned me on it. I said, I think on average he has lost this election every single day since the election, which is quite remarkable. Which means that Donald Trump has lost more elections than every single president, every single person who's ever ran for president put together. Because there's only been, I don't know, X many presidential elections. So yeah, I've got some more hello notices. I've got Marilena here. I've got saying hello. Got Jen Lewis saying hello, and Jim Shilton saying afternoon all. Sean is saying sound is good, which is good. I got David Gale there. I got Daniel Bennett. Diane. Quick sex change there, don't worry about it. Diane Bennett, I've got Chris Kopak, I've got Too Much 77, and I got Chubai. The Electoral College was a fraud. Electoral College votes found in the trash. Yes, they were found at the side of a small stream that no one knows the name of. We found some Electoral College votes, and we won't rest until this matter has been resolved and Trump is the president again. Something I mentioned the other day on the Hughes at 10 on Sunday was the fact that now these Trump supporters are turning on the GOP. They're turning on the Republican Party because of them not supporting Trump enough. When about 120 odd lawmakers, these are senators and members of the House of Representatives, they were all like, yeah, we're gonna support this motion. No, this plea. But what was it? This case that was brought by the Attorney General of Texas to try and overturn the election results in, like, I don't know, Wisconsin. If you look at a map of the USA, it's like Texas is here, Wisconsin is here. They couldn't get more further away. But, you know, we're going to tell you how you actually voted because that we wanted our guy to win. So I just kicked the camera there. Oof, don't want to do that. Okay, can we arrest him now, says Jen Lewis. Yes. Well, no, we've got to wait till he's not president anymore because America, like many countries around the world, have a really stupid law that says that the president is above the law. And when I say a lot of countries, I mean, I'm including France in that. France has a rule that says when the president commits crimes as president, they're above the law. Hurrah! They're immune from prosecution, like in Lethal Weapon 2. And but when he's out of office, it's going to be, it's just been revoked, as Danny Glover famously said to Josh Ackland. at the end of Lethal Weapon 2. And he shot him. Right. Dariana Star says Trump has lost 59 legal cases and won only one. There you go. So every day since the election, he has lost. And he's going to keep, apparently he's going to keep fighting and he's going to keep losing. But again, we like to read between the lines on this show. And, I've some of the smartest people in the world watching this. And you and I both know that it's not about him thinking he's ever going to actually win the election or overturn the result. He just wants to make loads of money out of his idiot supporters, one of which, I think in North Carolina, gave $2.5 million to fighting this cause, which Trump just put in his back pocket and went, yeah, cheers. Giuliani's working pro bono for him because he's just waiting for his pardon for his many crimes that I'm sure that he has committed. But yeah, we got a troll already. Have we got a troll? Oh, great. I wanted to do this. How do I get rid of a troll? Who's the troll? Get me on the troll. Because there's a little thing here and I can press downwards. I'm going to have to read these now. Thank God the winds are blowing again back online. Brexit Central. Yes, thank God for the winds. Keith says, why didn't Trump complain when he won 2016 using the same counting systems? Why was there only corruption in 2020 in the states he lost? I don't know, Keith. Why do you think that might be? Maybe he's just a bad loser. Or maybe he just wanted to make loads of money out of his idiot supporters. A fool and their money soon parted. Yes, indeed. UK PMs are not immune. Remember when Tony Blair was questioned under caution by the Metropolitan Police? I don't remember that, but yeah, prime ministers aren't. Generally, it's presidents because it's conferred to them as their role of head of state. And this is my problem with presidencies. I don't think you should be head of state, which has a ceremonial function and a figurehead for the nation. I don't think that role should be tied up with the role as head of government. And it certainly shouldn't be tied in with the role of head of the armed services, which is just ridiculous that one person can be all three of those things. I think that if you do have a presidency, you should have it like they do in Germany, where no one knows the president's name. In fact, little quiz, can anyone tell me the name of the president of Germany? I'll wait. Actually, no, I won't because it'll get really boring. If someone wants to Google that and find out who... It used to be a guy called Huygen Glock, but it's not anymore. It's some other person. Peter, but anyway, so the point is that you have a president who just goes around opening supermarkets and stuff and representing the nation on trade delegations. And they don't actually do any of the trade talks. They just turn up and have a drink with the ambassador of wherever and represent the nation around the world and just try not to ever get caught curb crawling or going to a sex party during a COVID pandemic. I don't know. Just try and stay out of trouble. But yeah, I'm not a rabid monarchist, but at the same time, I don't like the American presidential model. I don't think it's a very good way of dealing with a democracy. I think it puts far, far, far too much power in the hands of one person. And one of the problems I have at the moment with the House of Lords is the House of Lords is a lifetime peerage, so you get put up to the House of Lords, even if you're a horrible, nasty little gobshite like Claire Fox, who famously supports paedophiles being able to download images of children being abused online. And she also supports the IRA blowing up teenagers in Warrington, which was nice because for a few months there she was the MEP for the Northwest, which includes Warrington. And so she was our elected representative in Europe, and she believed that these children deserved to die because, I don't know, she used to be a communist and now she's a far-right Tory person. I don't know how it works, but she's in the House of Lords now. And one of the stupid rules that we have, because one of the stupid rules of being an American president is that all the people around you are not elected. All the people around you are appointed. So your Secretary of Defense is appointed. Your Secretary of State is appointed. Your the people around the president all appointed. The cabinet, if you want to call it that, is all non-elected. Sorry, it's all appointed. Meanwhile, in the UK, our cabinet is supposed to, by and large, be all elected, isn't it? It's supposed to be made up of MPs, right? But no, it can be made up of lords. So if you want to get someone into your cabinet, all you do is you just get some honorary bod that you want to be in your cabinet and you appoint them to the House of Lords. And then you can bring them into cabinet. So they can make decisions unelected on the future of the nation. And not only with no qualifications, but also with no electoral backing and no way of getting rid of them, which is my biggest problem. How can you have a system in which there's someone who does something wrong or someone who does something that people don't like and you can't get rid of them? At least with the president, yeah, after 4 years or 8 years, you can finally kick them out. Hopefully, if they don't change the constitution halfway through their term, Putin. But yeah, if you're trying to deal with the British system where you are a peer for life, it's like having people put on the Supreme Court, appointed, obviously, by whoever's in charge at the time, and they're there for the rest of their life. It's mental. It shouldn't happen. Should not happen. Right, what have we got here? We've got to get bloated oaf Boris out of government, says Peter. Agree. Thumbs up. Is Turkey a sovereign independent nation as it's in the EU customs union? Yes. Yes, it is. But it has to apply EU standards to stuff, which why wouldn't you do that anyway? Because EU standards are some of the highest in the world. And if you make things to EU standards, you can not only just sell it in the EU, but you can also sell it in every other country in the world that you want to sell stuff. Now, if anyone watched A Different Bias, great channel. I really, really recommend it. Phil over there this morning was actually talking about the deal that Boris Johnson was offered earlier this year by the EU, which was to have the same standards as the EU and therefore access to the single market. But if we decide to diverge and do our own thing with lowering environmental protections or lowering wages or lowering workers' rights, all things that these Tory bastards intend to do, then those products and those products alone will be subject to tariffs. And this is a great get out for Boris Johnson, but he didn't take it because he's an idiot. So if you want to hear more about that, head over after this. Go over to A Different Bias and definitely subscribe. Phil's putting out videos now pretty much every day, and he's always got a very good take on things. Yes, Phil is excellent. And also, he's Northern as well, which also helps. Start of BBC News at 1. Marg acted like he was on a fashion show, strutting his rear for the photos. Ugh. 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 I hate that, man. The Hungarian politician wasn't just caught in a gay sex party against the COVID-19 rules. He was caught in a gay sex party against the COVID rules with a backpack full of cocaine. What the hell? God. That reminds me, there was a show years and years ago with Richard Dawkins. I think it was called The Root of All Evil or something like that. And it was about religion around the world. And obviously Richard Dawkins is quite a famous atheist. And he interviewed a guy, I think his name was Ted Haggard. Someone could look it up. I think his name was Ted Haggard. He was one of these American evangelist preacher people who have these mega churches that need a new chandelier, and like people phone in with the tiny amount of money they've got and hand it all over. Like, it's just, here you go, take all my money. I want to go to heaven. I want anything better than this life that I'm living at the moment, which, for some people, it's fair enough, but that's not the way to do it. I mean, if heaven does exist, the way to get into it is by being a good person. It's not by giving money to crooks on television. However, this guy had a go at Richard Dawkins, and he basically came to the conclusion that all the world's ills were caused by people like Richard Dawkins, atheists, and then he singled out prostitutes, gay people, and drug addicts. And would you believe it, just a few months later, the same guy, Ted Haggard, I hope his name was Ted Haggard, because if it wasn't, I'm completely slandering some random person called Ted Haggard, but he was found in a motel room with a rent boy and a bag of crystal meth going at it while his wife was at home with his kids. So yeah, there you go. There's no hypocrisy like right-wing Christian hypocrisy. It's great. Phil's analysis is great. That's from Jen. Yep. Absolutely, I agree with that. I mean, look, there's loads of other people doing this kind of stuff. I'm not trying to put you off watching me, but Ben Chambers with the 16 Million Rising show is fantastic. Obviously, Phil. Also, Mike Galsworthy does live broadcasts all the time, and I'm guessing you all follow Femi on Twitter, but he constantly puts really good content up on there and makes a very good point. He does these little videos that you can just send to people and go, oh, what about this? What about this? Which is very, very handy. Johnson will more likely be dumped by his own party. The Tories are very ruthless. to their own leaders, more so than any other major party. That's from the Feckle Puny. Yeah, the Tories are very ruthless with their own leaders, which I feel like Labour should be a bit more like that, but they're not. Hey, listen, if anyone wants to inform me, because before I do these, I try and do a bit of research, but I have got other things to do. So sometimes I think of something that I want to talk about, and then I'm like, oh, I'll have to look into that because I don't know what to say. Yeah, one of the things was Keir Starmer was on the radio yesterday, and I didn't listen to it, but I heard some chatter on Facebook and Twitter saying that he had gone off the reservation, or he should have, some bigot called up and he didn't really tell them that they were a bigot. So if anyone wants to, in the comments, if anyone wants just to tell me exactly what happened there, what went down, I can do an instant hot take on the situation. But yeah, I think I mentioned yesterday, as with all leaders or politicians or just people in general, I generally have the attitude of I sit back and say, okay, impress me. I don't follow them around going, oh my God, you're amazing, everything you do is amazing. And then they do something rubbish and I have to make excuses for the rubbish thing they've done. I'll just go, yeah, that was a bit rubbish, that thing they did. Because, you know, I don't care. I don't know them. I mean, even if I did know him, I wouldn't bend over, you know, defending them every fight. Sorry, not bend over. Get on my knees defending them. Go, he's not a bad person, really. Look at all the good things he did. He fought against apartheid in the 1980s. Yeah, like Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon 2. See, it all comes full circle. No one who fought apartheid in the 1980s could be an anti-Semite. Anyway, hi, has this guy heard of the president of Germany? You missed it. It's Peter Steinmeier. Okay. Ramselaar Steinmeier. Oh, now I know. So it's Steinmeier. Steinmeier, I guess that would be pronounced, would it? Steinmeier or Steinmeier? I'll sort it out. It was definitely Haggard. That's in Darien. Great. The Feckle Puny says, Phil on a different bias is very good, as is Max Robespierre. Bullaher Matt is not bad too. For an in-depth analysis, I urge you to go and search for the Brexit blog. Okay, I will check that out. But yeah, all these are great recommendations. One of the things that people often talk about in the Remain movement, or as it's now going to be the Rejoin movement, is this idea that we want the arguments. It's not a case of just living in our own bubble. We want to know what to say to people when they say, but the EU costs £350 million a week. You know, what's the response to that? Well, the correct response to it is, well, actually, because of our membership of the EU, we made £2.4 billion a week. So, you know, how much it costs to be a member, how much we made as a member. It's a bit like saying, well, how much I have to pay to have my car at the car booth? Yeah, but how much money did you make at the car booth? Oh, I made about 1,000 times more. Oh, well, don't complain then. Oh, it's not 1,000 times. Don't. I've told you 1,000,000 times, do not exaggerate. Femi is very good too. He sadly attracts the racist Brexiteer though, who plays the man and not the ball. Yeah, the Feckle Puny, but I swear, Femi is a force of nature. He was up here in the northeast a few months ago. Oh, God, a year ago now, and he will go up to people waiting in a van on the street. You know, they'll shout something, and he'll go over and just walk into the street and say, "Hey, knock on the window," and they'll wind the window down. He'll start explaining to them why leaving the EU was a bad idea. He is a legend. He is a legend. Kia seems to agree with the caller that you don't have a right to live in an ethno-state. What isn't it? Didn't push back on great replacement theory. An ethno-state. Oh, is this the idea that we're getting pushed out by foreigners? You know, I hear these Picts are coming over. I hear these Angles and these Saxons are coming from other places. Saxony. I mean, what is that? Well, it's the kind of North Germany, isn't it? It's where Denmark is now. Is that Saxony? I don't know. Oh, all these bloody Jutes and the Franks and make me sick. You know what? If I met someone with a French surname like, I don't know, Farage or Francois, I'll tell them to fuck off back where they came from. Having visions of Gordon Brown there with people calling people bigots, particularly if you're a Labour leader with our media. Yeah, but Yeah, okay, fair enough. The great thing about Starmer is that when the press went after him, they couldn't find all they could find is that he bought a donkey sanctuary for his blind mother. I know, it's beautiful, isn't it? Well, they went after Hillary Clinton, and all they could find on Hillary Clinton was screaming Benghazi and emails at her. I mean, they went through like 70,000 of her emails and couldn't find anything interesting. I mean, that just shows how boring she is, but also how not corrupt she is. Her husband's another matter, but I mean, Hillary herself, you know. But you know, the media is very good at spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning, and I wish it would just get really, really dizzy and fall off a cliff. That'd be great. Femi needs a new YouTube channel. Yes, he does. Afternoon all. This is my haven in a mad world. Ah, thanks, Plum Duff. I'm glad to be your haven. I've got Darian here saying the Starmer story. He was on LBC and a woman claiming to be the wife of a Millwall supporter rang up to say booing the players was a good idea because the whites were disappearing. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. The whites are disappearing. How must have people felt in India when they saw these white people turning up and taking over? How must have they felt in South America, in North America, in the Caribbean, all across Asia, in the Pacific Islands? Yeah, Papua New Guinea. You see those white people coming onto your island, and the first thing they do is shoot you. They say, right, any questions? We're in charge now. And now we're concerned that because there's 3% of the population is from other places, or maybe looks different, that's a problem. And the idea that that's a problem is just so why we are where we are right now. The idea that we could have a civilization, if you want to call it that, in which if people have the wrong coloured hair or the wrong coloured eyes, they wouldn't be welcome in that civilization. Oh, those brown-eyed people, they're trying to wipe us out, say the green-eyed people. I mean, you'd have to... It would be like an episode of Star Trek, wouldn't it? Or Planet, where, you know, this person, I don't like them. Why not? Because they're a different shade of blue to what I am. And they're like, okay, that seems really, really weird. And they're like, yeah, but can you kiss Uharu? Well, I can, but they'll probably censor it in Texas. Darian says, also, Millwall is my local club. There's no way in hell that woman had anything to do with the place. Starmer didn't swear at her. He's being told he's gone soft on things. Okay, so, all right. I would have sworn at her. I would have said, get your fucking act together, love. What the hell are you? I mean, you know, you can't come on the radio and say stuff like that if you want to be part of the 21st century. And, you know, if you want to invent a time machine and bugger off back where you came from, which seems to be the Elizabethan era, then be my guest. But I kind of think you probably don't have the smarts. Goodbye. Phone down. That's why they won't allow me on the radio. Just remember, if fish is born in another country's water, it becomes British by swimming into British water. Does people born in another place become British by swimming into British water? Yes. Well, we've talked about refugees before on the Hughes at 10. And the mad thing is that there are no places for you to go to if you're in Eritrea, if you are in Libya, if you're in Syria, if you're in Iraq, and you need to flee for your life. There is nowhere to go to try and get asylum in Britain. You can't go to a British embassy in Turkey or somewhere because they won't accept your application. You actually have to have your feet on the soil of the country, and then you can legally ask for asylum. You've got to get into the country first. So it winds me up. They're jumping the queue there. They are. And now they're trying to make it more dangerous. Instead of facilitating, okay, there's a bunch of people at Calais right now who want to come to Britain. Go and ask them, start the process now. Start it while they're in Calais and say, listen, if you're successful, then we'll bring you over on a ferry. It'll be safe. We'll bring your family and we'll put you up somewhere. That's all you need to do. And there's a really quick and easy way of sussing out whether someone is really fleeing a war zone or not. And it's generally if they're a woman or a child, because people who are women and people who are children don't tend to run away from their hometown unless they're literally in fear of their lives. But this idea that all these economic migrants are coming over, they're coming to steal our jobs, and it's like Brexit's going to steal a lot more jobs than all the immigrants whoever wants to come to Britain put together. If you're worried about people stealing jobs, don't vote the Tories in. Anyway, the UK is 87% white. Yep, white to disappearing. Yeah, oh my God, at such a rate that there won't be any left of us in 1,000 years' time. Here's an idea. Let's stay quiet until February. Zero mention of rejoin. No, I told you so. Let's allow the reality to sink in and bite. February 1st, let's come out swinging. That's from Bioberg. Yeah, Bioberg. We've chatted on this about doing a march on March the 13th, which we're hoping will be the first available date after the winter when enough people have been vaccinated to make a march a viable thing to be able to do. If not, we will postpone it for a month or so. But yeah, I'm not making a huge fuss until then. I think you're right. Let's have a month or so of just going, yeah, well, you know, this is what you voted for, and then we can start saying "I told you so" in February. I don't know how well I can hold myself in though saying that. I know James O'Brien's got like a little box, hasn't he, that he puts a fiver in every time he says it. I don't have that. I'm more the ilk of every time I say it, I'll have another beer. So that being the case, I told you so. Oh, got no beer here. Damn it. Can someone fill up a beer, please? Okay. Oh, someone down there in Liverpool just throw me up a beer. How can a person come stealing a job and create 3 more by being a new person in the country? Don't know. Yes, the mentality of those who want to blame foreigners for stealing their non-existent jobs. Unfortunately, that's some carry. Unfortunately, England has always been a racist country. It wasn't until the mid-90s that the last no blacks, no dogs, no Irish sounds were taken down. Yeah. Yeah. We still have them, don't we, outside primary schools? Take a look at Cheddar Man. The original Britain looked white to me. Is that the Cheddar Man? What? He sounds like he was made of cheese. What are you talking about? And also, one of the quirks of being European is that we have a much higher percentage of our DNA. Is Neanderthal. Neanderthals died out, about 18,000 years ago, and before then, Homo sapiens came up from Africa in one of the great migrations, and they interbred with the Neanderthals. So the European people are already a mongrel race, if you want to call it that, whereas African people are more actually pure human. Yeah. It doesn't really matter because we're still all 99.4% chimp in our DNA. Yeah. Liverpool, Liverpool, love it. According to Tice, low tax is a good thing and wants to get rid of regulations. Miliband was spot on the other day on the Andrew Marr show. Yep. Richard Tice, obviously privately educated, gobshite. I found out today that, or yesterday, what's his name? McDonald? No, McDonald. Who was the guy who, John McDonnell, I think he is, Labour. Yeah, Labour under Corbyn. Yeah. I didn't realise this. He went to private school as well. Sorry, I missed him out yesterday when I was giving out the roll call of all the Labour lot who went to private school. I could also include Tony Blair. He was also privately educated. Which would explain why they're tub-thumping, we're going to tax the private schools, we're going to take away their tax-exempt charitable status. Rhetoric all disappeared after 1997 when Labour actually got into power. Because Tony Blair's like, I don't want to kick the hand that feeds me, or fed me. The UK should get on with the programme and join the continental thinking instead of the imperial thinking. Yeah, but lots of people still think that the Commonwealth is the British Empire. They haven't got a clue. Most people don't care or haven't bothered to look at it. But one of the problems is that the way that the media, especially the Daily Mail and the Sun, filter the news to these people who otherwise wouldn't care, is disgraceful. Don't forget, and this is a point that I like to make time and time again, 10 years ago, public attitude survey done by, I don't know, YouGov or one of them, found that only 1% of the British population thought that the EU was the most important thing. Everyone else said education, housing, the NHS, pensions, jobs, anything. And then the EU was like so far down the list, it was silly. And then within 5 years, we'd made it into this big national thing that everyone cared very deeply about and had felt deeply about for many, many years before, when actually they hadn't really cared about it before. It's quite a new thing. It's quite a new thing for them to care. There's more genetic diversity within the continent of Africa than any other landmass on Earth. That's from Brian. Good to know. Mike Guy says, who's my brother, by the way, says, but more importantly, what are the white stripes down Han Solo's trousers called? They're not white, they're red, and they're called Karelian blood stripes. Well, I think they're red. I think they're called Karelian blood stripes. Also, the woman who did the singing voice for Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady is a lady called Marnie Nixon. There you go. You want me on your quiz team? I know you do. Right, remember we share a lot of DNA with plants, some of us more than others. Yes, which is fabulous. But also, a cool thing about DNA is a lot of our DNA is what's called junk DNA. It's DNA that used to do things, but is now deactivated, but still in our bloodstream, and every fiber of our being, if you want to put it that way. And that junk DNA is all stuff like how to grow gills and how to flap about in the water and how to photosynthesize and all that kind of stuff that we needed in the past. So it's like this roadmap going back of evolution, if we could ever decode it. But I mean, it's really interesting. Oh yes, good point. At H, hit the like thumbs up button, folks. That's from Darian. So Darian says, hit the thumbs up button. So if you're watching this on something where you can thumb it, give it a good thumbing. And that means that I'll go up in the algorithm stakes, which is wonderful. I actually had more views than normal on Sunday night for the Hughes at 10, which was fantastic. Got loads of new viewers. So hopefully we're going to keep that going, keep the momentum going, and then eventually when we do start screaming from our rooftops, rejoin, we can all sort of meet up here once a day and discuss what we're going to do next. We have gills and as eyebrows. The Freckle Beauty says we need to put 4 questions to leave voters. Who are the leading Brexiters? What do they gain from Brexit? What are they prepared to lose? And how will you benefit in anything like the same manner? That's good questions, but people will. I'm going to preempt what people will say to that. So, who are the leading Brexiteers? Johnson. Johnson. I like to go to the pub with him, and Farage. I'd like to go. He's a good man. He's a good man. He says it like it is. He tells the truth. He says it like it is. And then you'll say, how do they gain from Brexit? Well, Farage had to give up his job as a city banker to fight this. He's sacrificed a lot. Not his massive mansion or his multi-million pound lifestyle, but he's sacrificed a lot. How do they gain from Brexit? What are they prepared to lose? Or does that mean what is Farage and Johnson prepared to lose, or is what are the person he's talking to prepared to lose? Because I think that people don't think they're going to lose anything from Brexit. And if you tell them that they are, they go, oh, you can tell the future now, can't you? All right, yeah. All right, Mr. Soothsayer, being able to predict what happens in the future, to which you send them an article from 18 months ago from Reuters or the Financial Times saying 1.2 trillion pounds of British assets have been shipped out the country to, well, not shipped out, probably digital, but, taken out the country and are now languishing in EU banks or banks within the EU. March the 13th, are you working with Jack Dart and Dan Janzig and others with this event? Yes, I will do, Andrew, but I haven't spoken to them yet because I haven't finished setting up the website. I'm trying to set up a website, so it just says the march, and then we have a donate button so we can pay for the stage. The stage is going to be about £5,000, and then I'll probably have to get some stupid permits for it and things like that. So I need to find out how much it's going to cost, then say, we need to raise X amount of money. It won't be much. It's not going to be like fucking people's vote nonsense where they're like, give us £1 million and God knows what we'll do with it. We'll get a big sign. And you're like, I don't think you spent £1 million on the sign. What did you do with the money, guys? They're like, So one of the things I'm planning to do with rejoineu.uk is the accounts. It's really important, this, because of all the skullduggery that has gone on in crowdfunding and things like that in the Remain movement. I want to move on from that and make sure everything is very transparent, and we say, okay, we're taking this amount of money and we're going to spend it on this. The money will not be spent on a bloody office block in bloody London and paying 27 people to work in there somehow, making logos. I don't know what they do. This is all going to be done from people's kitchens and lounges. So yeah, it's going to be a grassroots effort. And yeah, I was actually working on it this morning, which is why I didn't get a chance to have a look at the Starmer story. But it's moving. It's moving in the right direction. I'd like to do it for free. I'd like to just say to everyone, I'll just turn up to London. It'd be great. Bit of a surprise with the police, but I can't really do it that way. But I do think that once we start protesting next year against what has happened, I think that we can't let it. We can't go 6 months between marches. We need to make sure that we are doing it, and all over the country as well. Every Saturday there's going to be a march. We're going to be causing disruption. We're going to not like too much disruption. I mean, Brexit's going to do enough of that by itself, but just drawing attention to the plight to rejoin the EU, get more and more people involved, and especially young people, because as I keep saying, in the referendum, 73% of young people voted to stay in the EU, and that number's only gone up since. Sorry, to word limit. What are Brexiteers prepared to lose reefers like the likes of Jim Ratcliffe and James Dyson, who live abroad and negate the worst effects of the Brexit they funded? Yeah, the scumbags. I mean, Jacob Rees-Mogg is the best example of this. He well, maybe not, maybe Dyson is, or maybe just Jim Ratcliffe is, but what's his name? Rees-Mogg. He moved Somerset Fund, whatever it's called, his company. He moved it from London to Dublin. Somerset Capital, I think it's called. But yeah, they've all moved out. I mean, Farage has got kids who have all got EU passports. Tells you everything you need to know. Yes, Farage was quite the laughingstock in Germany when he applied. Yeah, didn't he put down the wrong address or something, which is quite funny. Jerry Watson says, Graham Hughes, what are you doing to prepare for no-deal Brexit? Have you stocked up on food and meds? What should your viewers do to prepare? I have stocked up. In fact, I'm going to just try and see if I can find this article in The Independent. Let me see. So I'm Googling. Googling's fun, isn't it? Let's all Google together. There we go. I love this. I type in Independent Graham Hughes. It comes up Independent. Man who visited every country in the world. And then the fourth one down is It'll Be Chaos. So yeah, here's an article about me. I'm just going to put this onto the chat. The chat. There we go. Ha, look at that. Technology, eh? So yeah, that's... that's come up as Restream.io. That's me, by the way. I don't know why it's come up as that. I'm going to have to find a way of changing the name. That comes up. It should say my name. Anyway, yeah, so as far as no deal stuff, what we have done is we've looked at everything that we buy in a week from the supermarket, and we've just bought the same thing, essentially, again, within reason, because obviously we can't buy fresh fruit and veg. It won't last. But we've bought everything we can. We've doubled up, we've tripled up, we've quadrupled up. So we should have enough. Even if no food and drink get through, we should still have enough to get to see us through, at least until the end of March. Actually, no, it'll probably be the end of February if nothing gets through. But stuff will get through. There will be food. It just won't be what you want. It won't be what you went in for. It will just be spam and a Torah sweet pudding, and that's it. Suet pudding, even. Yeah, it's going to be pretty grim, but there will be food. I don't want people digging bloody fallout shelters in the back garden or anything. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but there's going to be friction at the border, and it's going to take a long time to sort it out because we're not ready. We are so not ready. We're not going to have a no deal. I want to put my cards on the table. I don't think we're going to get a no deal. I keep saying this. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not going to put any money on it. Just my imaginary cards on the table. But I don't think we're going to leave it no deal. I think that Boris Johnson has shown in the last week that he is so desperate that he's calling up leaders from other countries saying, please, can we have a deal? Please, can you speak to me? And they're going, nope. See you later. Talk to Michel Barnier. Talk to Ursula von der Leyen. And You look really serious in that article, says Chris. Yeah, seriously pissed off, which I am. I genuinely am pissed off about all this. It's just that I think that if I did an hour-long show and it was just me just shouting Hulk smash and hitting my fists on the table, it wouldn't be that entertaining. Or maybe it would. I don't know. I try and keep quite chipper in my I don't know, dotage. John B. Craddock says, JOM Somerset Capital Management. That's it, Somerset Capital Management, not Somerset Chemicals, like Axis Chemicals. Has 275 million invested in Putin's Russia. He refused to take ownership of that when challenged re Novichok and other assassinations in UK. Oh my God. What a rat bag. So he's really heavily invested in Russia. One of the reasons why Russia helped out al-Bashir of, sorry, not al-Bashir, that was Sudan, al-Assad of Syria so much over the last few years was because the al-Assad family, famously, their money was all in Russian banks. And so the Russians could just tell him what to do. And he said, well, I want to stay in power. They're like, okay, well, we like you and we can trust you to hate everyone who's from the West. Yeah, we'll keep you in power. And they did. And the Russians hadn't interfered in the Syrians conflict. That I don't even think it would have got to the point of being war. I think it would have just been protests. He would have stepped down. They would have had elections and they would have carried on pretty much as they were, but with a new leader who maybe wasn't so much of a into his kleptocracy. Kleptocracy? That's where you steal things, isn't it? But the al-Assad family in Syria is incredibly wealthy. And yeah, a lot of their money is in Russian banks. You should be careful where you keep your banks. Where you keep your money if you're a foreign dictator. I heard a story. I was trying to start things with this because I get proven wrong a lot of the time. But I heard a story about Colonel Gaddafi when he was leader of Libya. Now, he had a falling out with Switzerland over his son. His son assaulted a maid, I think, and was arrested. And Gaddafi was aghast at this. How could you arrest my son for a crime? We're above the law, don't you know? Don't you know who I am? And so what he did was he banned citizens of Switzerland coming to Libya. He had an outright ban on them. I think it was about 2010, I think. And then he realised that because Switzerland's part of the Schengen zone, he had to ban everyone from the Schengen zone from going to Libya, which pissed off people in Italy because Libya used to be an Italian colony. And they had money invested there and stuff, and they couldn't go over. And so he quietly dropped it. But what he did do was he moved a lot of his money from his Swiss bank accounts, you know, as a fuck you to Switzerland. He moved them to, I think, the Cayman Islands. And then when the insurrection rose up against him in 2011, I think, he tried to access his funds, and the British government, I guess, because we're nominally in charge of the Cayman Islands, said, we'll just freeze that money there. So he got on his, he got on his app on his phone and pressed it, and it said not working. So he couldn't get a lot of his money, so he couldn't prolong the war. So just let that be a warning to you if you ever decide to be a nasty foreign dictator or even a British dictator. Be careful where you store your money in case your enemies can literally just stop you from getting it. Right, moving on. Chris Kopak. Phil did a great video on Daily Mail's so-called Brexit benefits. Oh, I'll have to watch that. I haven't seen that one. The Daily Mail, yeah, the 10 things to help with Brexit. And it was just like, 10 reasons why Brexit's going to be great or no deal's going to be great. And one of them was, honestly, you'll be able to buy a more powerful vacuum cleaner. I'm not saying Brexit's going to suck. But it's going to really suck. Ireland will never be reunited. We can't look after the people in the island of Ireland, and we don't have the NHS. Is that from Kevin Hegarty? Ireland will never be reunited. I don't know about that. Yes, after Sunday, it looks like there'll be a deal now. That's from David Glenn. Plum Duff says, Russia has undermined the West by funding the greedy and very clever. Doesn't need to fire a shot. Yes, that's all Russia needs to do. It just has puppets around the world, like Boris Johnson. And like, what's his name, dickhead Trump over in America. By the way, breaking news: Vladimir Putin has finally congratulated Joe Biden begrudgingly as the next president of the United States, which makes a big change from last time a president of the United States was elected with the help of Russia, in which the Russian parliament all stood up and applauded. Just want to point that out every time it's mentioned, because it's worth pointing out to people who think Trump is on their side. He's not. He's really, really not. Even if there is a deal, it might not be enough time to get it ratified by January the 1st. That's from Chris. Chris, I wouldn't worry about the technicalities of it and the ratification. I think what they'll do is they'll just bodge something through and say, look, we'll put in an interim measure. The EU, at the end of the day, can, within its own rules, can do what the fuck it likes. So it'll say, look, this is a big contract with a bunch of lunatics, but it's worth a lot of money to us. So please, let's take it, have an interim period where nothing changes, and then suddenly bring in these new changes or whatever, or have it incrementally. I'm not too worried about them ratifying it at the moment. There'll be some back and forth. The important thing is that on January the 1st, we'll have some kind of certainty as to what our future trading relationship is going to look like. And it's going to look shite, to be honest with you, because inexplicably, we're leaving the customs union and the single market. And as I said a few times, if we weren't leaving the single market and the customs union, I wouldn't be that arsed. I wouldn't be making these videos. I wouldn't be organising marches. I'd just be like, okay, well, we're still kind of part of Europe, so that's all right. And eventually, when I'm a bit older, we might rejoin. That'd be great. But there's no sense of urgency in that case. But the fact that we're not joining the single market, and the fact that we're leaving both the customs union and the single market, we're actually negotiating, the first country in the history of the world to sit down at a negotiating table, not having lost a war, and saying, we want worse trading terms than we used to have, please. Can we have them? Worse trading terms. Yeah. Which is what we're going for. Christian says, I know two MEPs from two different parties in the parliament. They are pissed that they don't have enough time to do a proper ratification. I think they'll vote the deal down if there is one. No, I think they'll make time. I think they'll bodge it somehow and make... I might be talking out my arse, but I do think that there'll be a bodge. They'll be like, we will ratify this. This deal stands ready to be ratified over the next few months, I guess. No, the EU can't do whatever they want. WTO rules don't, Well, okay, to some extent they can do what they want. But if they've negotiated a settlement with another place, then obviously there's always going to be a time period where it sort of comes into place. Maybe we'll have a no-deal situation for a few weeks at the beginning of January, but the EU have already said, because the EU's boss has already said, we are putting in things so that if it is no deal, Britain won't starve. We'll make sure that food and medication and fuel still gets into the country one way or another. Perhaps not as fast as it used to, but it will get in. Russia has its only naval base in the Med in Syria. Well, there you go. And that'll be up in the northwest of Syria, so it'll be over by Aleppo and Homs. So I see why that was so important for al-Assad to take back that area of the country. The Principality of Wallonia is refusing to sign any trade deal until the UK pays an arsehole tax. That's in too much 77, yeah. There should be a trade deal then. WTO rules do not apply then. Yeah, WTO only applies for disputes really, and for making sure that people stick to the MFN rule, the most favoured nation rule, which means that you can't give preferential treatment to another country unless you have a trade deal with them. So what would happen with the EU is someone say, hey, you haven't got a trade deal with the UK yet, and they'll be like, yeah, we're working on it. Okay, hurry up. I mean, realistically, not much is going to happen. And I don't know, but I don't think that the WTO still have enough arbiters to do the arbitration that they need to do when they're looking at cases coming into the WTO, because Trump has famously tried to undermine the WTO because he just wants American exceptionalism, American independence from the world, American protectionism. So I don't think till Biden gets in, the WTO would be in a position to do anything about it, even if they could, which I don't think they can. So Tim Ballum says, as long as how long until the government falls when the French fishermen blockade the ports? I really want to see that. That'd be great. I mean, if you're a French fisherman watching this and you feel like blockading your ports to screw over Britain, I won't stop you. I won't stop you. I don't really want you to do it because it is going to be difficult for us in Britain. But what's going to be more difficult is having Boris fucking Johnson in charge of this country for another 4 years. Why isn't the real reason that Brexit is so strongly being pushed forward by the media is so the wealthy can avoid being taxed in 2021 when the EU bring in new tax laws? Well, Kevin, those laws have already come in. And what they were there to do was to tighten up the loopholes on having these far-flung outposts around the world, like the Cayman Islands, where you could basically launder money and tax evade to the nth degree. So yeah, that was a big push for the Brexiteers to get out of the EU as quickly as they could. Because they don't want to have to pay tax on their ill-gotten gains, which is nice. Just watch Phil's latest Brexit buying guide from the Daily Fail. Apparently, we should be buying cars, second homes, and lobster before Brexit. Brexit. Hilarious. Yeah, British-made cars because there's so many British cars. I think there's Ineos, which is the company owned by that clown who was going to make Land Rovers, which is Tata, but he was going to make like a classic Land Rover, and now he's going to make it in France. That's Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Emphasis on the word rat. Ian beat it to me. Read a 12-page EU document about no-deal contingencies. Yeah, the EU is a lot more prepared. The EU nations are a lot more prepared for no deal than Britain is. We've known that for a long time. We're really not prepared for anything in this country at the moment. I mean, it's really quite embarrassing the way that we've handled the whole COVID epidemic. And I'll just talk a little bit at the end of this. I honestly believe that children should not be going back to school tomorrow. And I don't think that we should be having this 5-day release of the tier system over Christmas. I think that it's going to cause the death of thousands of British people for no good reason. Okay, if you're going to have one day and say Christmas Day, you can meet with your family, then you have to have a 10-day window, and don't forget today's the 15th, 10-day window before Christmas in order for any symptoms to present themselves, and so that anyone who's got COVID today won't infect their grandparents over Christmas. But kids are going to be staying in school now until Friday. Greenwich Council tried to make it so kids would be off from tomorrow, and the Minister of Education, this absolute fucking dimwit called Frank Spencer, the man who famously told the Russians to shut up and go away after they murdered a British citizen on British soil, he has stepped in and said, no, it's of critical national importance that these children go in for the last 3 days of term, which will require them to, I don't know, do crafts and watch videos and basically get this coronavirus. Now, if I was a cynical person, which I'm obviously not, I would think, well, actually, the government's MO really is getting rid of old people at the moment, because COVID's been great for that. It's killed 80,000 people in this country so far, and a lot of those people are old. But to a government scumbag like Jacob Rees-Mogg, they regard old people as useless eaters. They think that they don't actually contribute anything towards the economy, although they might pay some tax on their pension. They're not creating jobs, they're not creating wealth, they're not entrepreneurs, they're not making any money. They're just sitting on their asses, taking money off the state that they worked for, taking money off the state and not contributing like what Jacob Rees-Mogg does with his financial firm. So yeah, I can see why they might want to get rid of a few extra people while they can before the vaccine stops that particular wheeze from happening. But I really, I mean, like I said, I don't have kids myself. If I did have kids, I would not allow them into school after tomorrow, especially if we were seeing my parents over Christmas, which we're not. But if we were, then I would make sure that didn't happen. Yeah, one other thing that I want to point out before I go, because we've got 5 minutes left. Something James O'Brien said just about an hour ago. He said that people with, he's had COVID, and he feels like he should continue wearing a mask even though he can't get it anymore. Yes, good, but it's not just about you not getting it anymore. It's also the fact that if you touch something, if there's COVID on this cup and I touch this cup, I can then go and touch another surface and move the COVID from this to the other surface. Someone else touches that and they can get it. I can still transport it around on my body. I might not get ill from it. I might not breathe it in. I won't be contagious in that way, but we know that COVID can be transported to the surface, from surface to surface, which is why washing your hands, not shaking hands, Boris Johnson, and disinfecting your hands as much as possible is so important, even if you've had COVID, because you can still spread it. So yeah, that's an issue there. Just going to dive into a few more messages before I go. 127 watching and only 57 likes, I think. Is that what? 54 clicks. Come on, folks, that's from Daffyd. Big shout out to Daffyd, who's got me a new mic, so my sound will be a lot better, I hope. So thank you so much. That's my early Christmas present off Daffyd, so I should have that later this week. I hope I can get it working. That'd be really funny if I plug it in and it's all like, wow, look at my fancy new mic. And I absolutely cock it up and no one can hear anything I say for the whole show. Or I sound like a Dalek or something. Or sound like a computer underwater in the 70s. Hit the like, thumbs up button, shouts Darian. The same crap going on in Ireland. Schools being ordered to stay open, but students just not showing up. A few days off school to prevent a massive spread over Christmas. No brainer. Yeah, John, I don't get it. Why? I mean, I obviously understand that there are parents who can't take time off work to look after their children. And obviously you would allow them to still go back to school. But if you can go home for the last 3 days, the last fucking 3 days before Christmas, do it. Just go home. This is only temporary. This is not going to happen again next year. Fingers crossed. Unless there's some kind of new disease that we don't have a vaccine for. We've got a vaccine. Just be patient. Oh my God. It's like the people in power. Children go, I want it to be Christmas now. And you're like, okay, you're a fully grown adult man. You're 63 years old. Why are you acting like a spoiled brat waiting for Christmas to come now? Just wait, just relax, just calm down. And unless you're not going to see your parents again after this Christmas, just leave it. Just leave it. That's what I say anyway. Reinfection is possible. That's for many. Yeah, I've heard that as well. Also, if I had COVID, I'd wear a mask to set a good example. Yes. Absolutely agree. I live equal distance between two hospitals. The deaths in those two have remained within just one of each other, but over the last 2 weeks have suffered a doubling of deaths from COVID. From Diane. I'm frightened the other one may follow suit. I mean, we're seeing deaths. We're seeing hundreds of deaths a day. And it's going up. It's going up. And this is not the time to be relaxing things because of an arbitrary date that was picked as the birth of Jesus, even though it doesn't make any sense, because I think it says in the Bible that his mum got pregnant on the 6th month, and I think that Christmas is 6 months after June, not... But yeah, arbitrary date that was picked. Obviously, I think it was the birthday of Mithras, was it? Mithras was another god before Jesus. They picked this day. Happy Mithras, everybody. Graham, Italy and Germany are going back into proper lockdown again over Christmas, and the UK are relaxing the restrictions. It's almost as though the people in charge are narcissistic sociopaths. Did you send your Christmas list to Santa yet? Lol. Have to head back to work. Bye. COVID needs a vaccine to stop, not infections. Yeah. We're asking, Graham, are you following Baker Street Herald on Twitter? If so, have you any thoughts thereon? I'm not following Baker Street Herald, but I might have a look at it and then I'll give you some thoughts. Daniel says, isn't implementing a provisional trade deal, assuming they make one, what GATT Article 24 was really about? Yes, it was. That's very true, that from Daniel Jones. Look, these things are not, when it comes to trade deals, these things aren't set up to be cast iron. There's always an element of fudge in it because it's a deal. It's not a law. It's not like we need a law to stop people murdering each other and that's the law. It's a deal, and the WTO is there not really as an enforcement operation. It doesn't act like that. It acts more as a mediation service. You can't look at it like the global policeman on trade who go around like slapping people who don't do naughty trade things. It doesn't really happen that way. What's more likely to happen is countries will take unction at Britain doing something and put trade sanctions against Britain, and then we go to the WTO to try and to iron out the kinks. Whatever's causing the friction between us is smoothed out by the WTO, not by the WTO, mediated by the WTO. You know, you have this in businesses, don't you? You have this where you have like mediation. If you have two employees who aren't getting on with each other, they go to mediation. That's essentially what the WTO does. It's not there to wave their finger at people. It's not the European Court of Justice by any means. Not only Germany and Italy, the Netherlands is having their strongest lockdown measures currently since the beginning of COVID, which is all a bit sucky. Listen there, I love you loads, but I'm going to have to call it a day. I'm just going to give you my Patreon. That's my Patreon account down there. And what Patreon does is it allows people to make small payments every month as a subscription to help me make these episodes every day, except for Saturdays, going forward, and also whatever in the future. If I do something that pisses you off, you can always cancel your subscription. But you know, it's cheaper than Disney Plus, and as far as I'm concerned, twice as entertaining. Yes, I just said out loud that I'm twice as entertaining as The Mandalorian. So yeah, before I go, I just want to say a big shout out and a thank you to my patrons at the moment, which include Andrew and Thomas and Malik and Hayden and Johan and Sally and James and Elizabeth and Chris and Chubai and David and Attila and Daniel, again, different Daniel, Derek, Paul, Alex, Jarton, Alex, Betty Biscuit, Compute Art, AB and Darren. Thank you. I really, 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 really massively appreciate it. And thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. If you want to support and you're not already, head over to patreon.com/thatgingerscouser and you'll be able to find me there beaming my big bollocks to Brexit bus. It wasn't mine, I was just standing in front of it. And yeah, we'll be able to keep these things going, keep the momentum going, and yeah, hopefully we'll do more work together with Ben Chambers, with Femi, with Matt Goldsworthy, with Madalena Kay, everybody. Just let's get the band back together and let's start fighting this absolute catastrophe that is Brexit, and let's get back into the EU as soon as humanly possible. So until next time, hello, good evening, welcome.